This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for a large in-person event in Chile that happened this past weekend. 144 players and is hosted by Next Dimension Store. And normally I only kind of do like more official Bandai events, but I was reached out to by Daniel Esteban Carreno Cartez on this tournament. He said he wanted just some eyes on it, and he had the deck list for me, and he just wanted to have some more eyes in Latin America. And I wanted to help the scene and everything. And honestly, it's the start of EX3. There's a lot of interesting deck lists, and there are a lot in this tournament too, so I wanted to cover them, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So again, shout outs to Daniel for giving me the list to give to you guys, Next Dimension Store for running the event, and if you guys do enjoy these videos, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It means a lot to me as well. But going into this top 16 breakdown, we have 3 security controls, with one of them taking the event, 3 MetalGaruru X, 2 WarGreymon X, 2 Blue Flares, a Commandramon, a Bloom Lord, an Armor, a Mother D Reaper, an AncientGreymon, and a Blue Hybrid. So really a lot of different kind of decks going. And one of the big things that I've been enjoying this past week, since we've been doing a North America tournament, an Oceania tournament, and then today a Latin American tournament, is even though we all have the same card pools, even though we're all in the exact same format, just people in different parts of the world think about this game and think about card games differently. They have their own mindset of what they think is great and different ways to play. And even though we do see that big MetalGaruru slice on every one of these pie charts, there's just a bunch of differences depending on what region you're in. And I think that's really cool and really interesting. And I just kind of want to dive into that today. So we're going to go over the top placing lists in each archetype. I'm going to start off with Bastian's security control. Starting off, we have Bastian Gonzalez's first place security control, and again, shoutouts to both Daniel and Next Dimension Store for providing these images that we're using. Makes it a lot easier for me, and I hope you guys appreciate them providing them to me. But going over this list here, it's kind of what we're converging to on the security control list. I don't think anyone's going to be running their own, like there's going to be a lot of just tiny minor variations. Everyone has their own specific ratios for specific option cards like Holy Wave and like Wyvern's Breath, but also if you're running the green package like we've seen here, that's obviously a smaller green package with only one green source in the entire deck, and then just 2 copies of Grandel Soul. So that's something, a personal choice there. The Sakuyamon is still kind of strong in some decks, just being able to have it out there and just kind of like be an alternative copy of Venusmons at time, which is really interesting. And then just pretty much the yellow and purple package that we've been seeing pretty consistently. So we have the Mimi Tamers, we have both Kari Tamers, we have Calling from Darkness at 1 because we can't run it more, 4 Death X1 because it's a great card, and then the Ophanimon and just kind of everything else, and the Flame Hellsize and the Chaos Degradation. So I think like the yellow purple package, there's probably like 30 cards that you're running, and then you have some adjustable ratios, and then you can kind of pick your own anti-meta stuff to include on top of it there. So I think security control is in a pretty good spot right now. I think that it's not as aggressive or OTK based as we've been seeing, which is good for a deck like this. And yeah, especially since we have 3 in the top 16 here. I don't think security control is really going away. It's just kind of an archetype that's going to exist in this game pretty much forever because of how it is, and there's no way to like remove it completely, just over, take out overtune cards like Reinforcing Memory Boost at 1, Calling Darkness for 1, and we'll see if anything else gets hit in the next couple weeks. But again, congrats to Bastian on their first place finish there. Next up, we have a MetalGaruru. This is Daniel's MetalGaruru X. Not too much to say. I always whenever we go to a MetalGaruru deck, I always like, how do I say this is the same deck I've been seeing for weeks without being insulting towards the player or people who like the archetype? And I never ever want that. It's just that this is a very understood archetype and deck, and it's definitely more player based than your own personal spice. There is some decision points for it. There are a couple for it, like if you're playing Hammer Sparks or not. And the new Omni X is great as well, but it's pretty solid for what it is, and that's how it is. It's going to be here until something changes. So not much more to say than that, but just congrats to Daniel on their finish there on the 2nd place, and just big congrats to them there. Next up, we have our 3rd place, and an AncientGreymon out of pretty much nowhere. Like this is definitely an archetype that just randomly does well every once in a while, and especially like you will see in some later decks in this top 16, because some of these decks are just sleepers that if people don't play the outs to them, they do kind of well sometimes, and I think Ancient Grey is definitely in that spot, especially in a format that obviously has a lot of security controls. You do have ways to bypass those effects, have one really, really big punch, and kind of end the game. And that is exactly what this deck does. So very, very strong. It does still get like shut out by Venusmon at times, depending on the ordering of stuff, and you do have to watch out for that. But yeah, very, very strong in what it does. Being able to just make a really big body, go all in at once, and just get rid of all that security without the checks due to the Hydramon inheritable there. So not much more to that. Congrats to Matias for this finish there for this third place. And we'll see if it pops up again. I always feel like it's just like they randomly do well, and then no one does randomly good for a while, and then it pops up like, oh, Ancient Grey, and then it just fades to obscurity again. But we'll see if that changes. But again, congrats to Matias for that there. Next up, we have our 5th place list. This is a WarGrey X, and we have been seeing this one do pretty okay at the North American side, and by pretty okay, I mean win the event. But it's also one of those that I think got slightly better with the release of that BT10. Like X antibody is great in the deck, though. Obviously, you're only running one, but just the format that we're in right now is that it is a kind of an OTK, but it's very somewhat greedy with some of the choices you get to make and just how you go into it. Also, you'll notice that even though I called it a WarGrey X, it's only running 2 of the X antibodies, and it's running 3 of the BT1 as well. And this could just mean to me, without 100% knowing, this is just an insight, that there's a lot of people in Chile who just love that security control deck. And so being able to see like a WarGrey, or the BT1s that just ignore those effects, to me means that there are just people need to main deck these options for it if they want to do well with it at some time. So obviously WarGrey does that. WarGrey X does have some ways to trash security, and then Omnimon X antibody as well, being able to peek at that security and get rid of the ones you don't like is very strong for you there. So it's very great at what it's doing. Obviously, again, did get first place in North America as well. So I think WarGrey, after being pretty obscure in the meta for like BT9 at the beginning of BT10, is just, I would say, almost randomly very good in EX3, but I think it's just people are kind of jumping on board for how much destruction it has, how much protection it has, and it's very good. I don't think I said who it was. This is Herzon's list, so congrats to Herzon on their 5th place finish for this one. Moving on to 8th place, this is Renato's D-Brigade. And right now we're kind of like in this weird spot right now where we got like a whole new line in EX3, and you have to make a decision of, do I want to play the new line, or do I make the old style where you just play the rookie rush almost style of the deck with a couple of the new cards? And Renato decided to make the old style with a couple of the new cards, and that's fine. Like, the old style was winning events in BT9, was doing well in BT9, and with really what it's turned into with the bans and limiteds that we got in BT9 or in BT10, we kind of just have like a BT9 Part 2 format in my mind. We have pretty much every deck that was viable in BT9 is still viable now, more or less, besides the ones that got hit, like Alphamon. And then we have all of these new decks that are almost at the same level or have some close variations to it. So Commandermon is definitely that in my mind. We do see that they're running the new rookie because it's literally just a rookie named Commandermon, so why would you not run it? The Sealsdramon that has jamming, it has a really great inheritable, but you have no way to get there, so that's fine. Grumblemon, Hydramons, the Darkdramons, Death X, and then just your black options and tamers there. So I think this is still good. I think like this package is great. Like even if they got nothing, if you didn't get the new Commandermon and Sealsdramon, I still think it could top an event with just literally a BT9 deck. So obviously new cards and new options make it better. And I'm curious to see if this is still just the better way to play the deck, or if this is just the way people know how to play it right now, and if we do see like a transition or like a change of power into running the new stuff, the new line, and kind of the newer way to play it. So I'm really going to be interested to see that, and congrats to Renato for their finish there. Next up, we have Luis's 10th place armor list, and this is like a Magdamon X list, and this is looking very, very similar to Martin Lee's list that I've seen him play and do very well, especially the the Jessamon GX in that level 7 spot is an indicator to me that it's like that. And I know this was established more before Martin Lee played it, but I do know that he's the first person I know who really put that GX in that deck, so that's why it sticks to me. But I love this deck. I love Vmon. I love the armor stuff, which is really weird because before it came out, I hated armor. I didn't think it was going to be very good, and I still don't I still don't think it's amazing. It has a lot of weaknesses and ways to like get around armor purge, which is really obnoxious, but it's very strong once you get up to this. Being able to get the Magna X pretty consistently is great. Having the Jessamon GX to do stuff, and blue green does have some like almost unfair cards. The Davis Ken is great, the Megadeth is great, and the Gigadeath that's also being run in this build is very good. It's also interesting to see the one of X antibody as well to do some plays off of swinging, so you can put on like the Magnemon swing and then Digivolve into the X antibody. And then for the level 5 spots, only 2 Chimeramons and a Pyodramon as well, so no Shakuamon. So obviously different than Martin's list, but there's a lot of similarities. And then whatever VMons you like the most, you just jam those into the list there. But really cool to see that armor still doing it's consistently topped, I think, against all 3 events that happened this past weekend. Only I think 1 or 2 in each event, but I'm very happy to see that still kind of doing stuff in this meta. I think that's very, very cool. So congrats again to Luis there. And next up we have Matias's. This is 11th place, Mother D Reaper. And this is why I'm like I said earlier, part of the reason why I think this is like a BT9 Part 2 archetype, right? Like our like a format we have right now. So don't have a lot of like deck building insight for this list, especially because it's literally a BT9 deck list, because it's all that kind of stuff. But if you're not playing around the idea of what the mother deck does, if you have no way to gain security attack plus like some of these decks do, like sometimes security control can have a hard time against this, just because you have an endgame win condition eventually, and sometimes it's just playing a bunch of like quote unquote rookies and just swinging them in, or and then finally having like a big Reaper play at the end. Like all that's great, and so we'll see. I think this is always going to be like in the AncientGreymon like bucket where it gets played every once in a while because people aren't expecting it. It does randomly against the top 16, and then it just fades into obscurity for a little bit again. But if you love Mother D Reaper, I think it's definitely something you can viably play right now. And but it's going to be tough, but it is there if you want it. So I don't know anyone who wants it, but it's there. So congrats again to Matias on their finish. And next up we have a Bloomlordmon, Hydramon list. Very kind of interesting build on this. Definitely more on the Bloomlordmon since you are running 4 of those. But we do have the 2 Nidhogg's as well and a Hydramon at the top end. So still, I would say like this is a weirder build for that. You obviously are running the Palmomons, and I've kind of talked about this list like this before, where Bloomlord was really great if if your opponent's literally doing nothing. If your opponent's doing nothing, you get to go off and you're fine. But the base deck was really missing the interaction of being able to do stuff with your opponent, right? If you had no interaction with your opponent's cards, and sure you got to go wide, but you went wide with just a bunch of like low DP Digimon that are already suspended and very easy to get rid of, right? And then you really don't have like a crackback for you there. So being able to add the Palmomons for being able to have a way to actively suspend your opponent's Digimon is great, and Hydramon does the same thing. And the plant vegetation archetype is cool. I also didn't see the Shivamon immediately too, so Shivamon's another level 6. You're running 8 level 6. What a mad lad! What a mad lad to do this. But yeah, green does have. I always want to love green. I'm never a green player because I always get level 3s, level 4s, and level 6s, but I never see my level 5s. And in this deck, you're only running 7 level 5s, is that right? It's 8. You're running 8. So 1 for every one of your level 6s, which is, again, a little bonkers to me. But it does have a lot of cool gameplay, has a lot of decision points, which I really like, and it's very complex for that. So I think it's a lot of people are on the Hydramon Bloomlord package right now, and I think it's in a good spot. I think it's worth developing and being played at, and just congrats to Aandroidd for their finish there. Next up, we have a Blue Flare, and I still like Blue Flare. I don't know if you guys like it. I know it's kind of like it's like I would say it's a modern blue hybrid in a lot of ways, but it has interaction, but your opponent has to play into it, right? So. But I think this is some pretty standard kind kind of list for it, being able to just have all the blue flare cards in it. You run the security +1 inheritable Greymon if you want it. And that's really the idea. We do have some nasty option cards, including the new one from EX3 that lets you. It's the Sonwa, I believe it is. The X3 is obscuring the name, but it's you take 4 off of one of your opponent's securities. One of your opponent's Digimon, you take 4 of their inheritables away, and then your opponent can't attack with Digimon that don't have sources on the next turn. So obviously you can Digivolve up and then swing with it, but if you don't do that, or if they only have that, a bunch of level 6s without any sources with it, they really just can't swing with it, which is nice. So I would say it's a more balanced version of like an Ice Wall or like a Tommy Stun in that way, which is nice to see. It's also on an option, right? And it costs 4, and the difference between a 3 cost and a 4 cost option are insane, because you have to do something really good for 4, because it's very hard to keep it your turn and still play the option at the same time, right? So I think this is a cool build with it, and I didn't know about this EX3 option until I saw this in this list, and surprised the next one we're going to talk about. But I still believe in Blue Flare. It's still just a worse cop version of MetalGaruru X, I think, at this point. But if anything happens to this deck, I think a lot of people are going to be switching to this, and it does have a lot of strong points. So anyways, congrats to Matias for their finish there. And to finish it off, it is the blue hybrid of all things. I thought I was never going to have to put Tommy's face in another pie chart, but here we are in November of 2022. But there are some good things that we do get here. Again, we were talking about this new option card, and I think that's like the newest add to it and the only add you really need for it, to be honest. But it's still kind of a good thing. Like it's the deck was so good for so long because of what it did, and even if Tommy's at 1 copy of it, I would say we're kind of in like a slower format right now a little bit. Some decks can go really combo off and go off, like Jesmon can do that right now, even though it's not topping a 16 event as often, but being able to take advantage of it, and still like being able to just have like 4 tamers out and have like 8 memory, just individually Digivolve on top of them, swing them in, and there's still not like a lot of interaction for that right now. And I think because we're not in as like a fast of a format as we've seen previously, and we're kind of like in this more mid-range, that there is some room for Blue Hybrid to again do what it did, be able to stun your opponents with the Korikakumon or like the Beowulf, as well as the just get a lot of swings in and get a lot of value off it. So we'll see if it makes its, rears its ugly head into some other top 16s. I wouldn't be too surprised from it. I think like there's like a triangle between like MetalGaruru X, Blue Hybrid, and Blue Flare. I think they're all kind of just doing the same thing, and you just have to do your preference. I still think MetalGaruru X is better, but I honestly don't think like Blue Flare and Blue Hybrid are too off for what it's doing, and Blue Hybrid is less interactable for your opponent, but it doesn't have as much pushing power as a Blue Flare can sometimes do. So anyways, this is Gonzalo. I did not say that. So Gonzalo, congrats on your finish there. And that is going to be the event interview, or the overview for us today for this event. So congrats again to all our top 16. Thanks again to Daniel for reaching out to me. I really do appreciate it. And I do like to be able to document and talk about this tournament that I didn't know existed until you reached out to me. So that's really cool to see. And thanks again to Next Dimension Store for putting this event on. But that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.